our opening slide, successes and celebrations. So come on down to slide 4. And I'm actually going to do a slide 5 because we have a nice large group. And go ahead and grab a text box and tell us, what are you celebrating today? What successes do you have? And the text box looks like this. There's a little T with a box in it, but you're not going to grab this. You're going to actually go up to your toolbar somewhere up here, and you're going to find that T with a box around it. So go ahead and share your successes and celebrations on slide 4 or 5. They can be related to teaching or just completely fun and in your personal lives.
Templates that she sent. I'll put that link again in the chat.
All right, everyone. It's always fun seeing the tech that changes. Um, my neighborhood right now is going through a couple brownouts, and our internet's been jumpy. So I'm not connected via phone, and hopefully we won't have any other issues. Um, all right, so this is successes and celebrations. I invite a couple of you all to share a little bit more about it. We'll start with Elizabeth. Um, how often are you getting outside?
So I get outside. Hello, everybody. I get outside 4 times a day. I have a dog, and so we are spending lots and lots of times outside, whether it's rain or shine. And thankfully today it was beautiful weather, and so we're just enjoying that time that we can be outside gathering just time away from the computer.
Yes, I hear you there. Um, let's see, we have so many wonderful things that we're celebrating. Lisa, tell us a little bit about using breakout rooms.
So it was very, can you all hear me?
Yep, sure can.
Oh, can you hear me now? Okay. It was very intimidating at the beginning of class, worried that it was going to be a disaster. But I decided to try to make almost every part of the lesson yesterday interactive, starting with some of those would you rather things, doing polling, and then I just went for it with the breakout rooms, and it was a lot easier than I thought it would be. Just having collaborate, let you decide how many kids, and then I was able to figure out how to go back and forth between the different breakout rooms with the kids, and I think that they really liked the fact that I could get in there and talk with them. Just 3 kids per group, so it was great. It was great.
That's wonderful. It's so exciting to hear that and to hear how now other people can connect with you on those. All right, folks, this is Successes and Celebrations. If, as you've noticed, it is basically a completely blank slide. My purposes here are to give kids a very unstructured way to write and share. Some people will use pictures, some people use big old fonts. They will do a variety of things here. Alrighty, let's see, coming down to slide 6. In my work with math teachers, we typically have these 8 objectives in every single one of our math sessions. And I'm sure you all have goals and objectives in your classes as well. So let's just take a look at these 8 that I have. And there are 3 different emojis up there. If you were to teach math today, how would you feel about these 8 objectives? If there's one that you totally have the hang of, move the smiley face down to that objective. If there's one you're kind of so-so, a little bit okay, move that one. Or if you're just not so sure how you would implement that objective, then move the frowny face. Oh, Lisa, you are already on to our next question. While people are moving those, I'm going to ask you all, how could you use this type of a template in your content area? Lisa, you're already thinking about your objectives. If you had different objectives here, Lisa, how might it look in your class? So go ahead and turn on your microphone. How might you use this activity in your class to give students voice? Go ahead, Sarah.
I was thinking that this is a nice way to give students, like to get feedback and give students voice without them having to get on their mics or type in the chat. I have some students that have been very, very shy to interact on Blackboard Collaborate, but this, having it be an emoji, this might be something that they might feel more comfortable putting than actually speaking.
Absolutely. Rashmi, go ahead.
I think that we can use something like this to gauge their understanding. If you're doing something with vocabulary, then we can think of their level of understanding and just make it simpler and say rate your understanding. Or if we have to review concepts covered, then that could be a way of seeing how well they think they know the material.
Indeed. So we have this kind of student self check-in. It is authentic. And another thing is it's anonymous. So students can grab any one of those choices and move it down and have a safe place to put it without feeling like they're going to be judged for putting one of the emojis over another. Indeed, low stakes. All right, folks, I am going to share with you 12 different activities. We're going to move at a very fast pace today, and I am purposely not modeling the wait time I would give my students. Instead, since you all are adult learners, it's the wait time I would give teachers who are practicing educators, because all you all need is an idea, and then you're going to run with it. So let's see who we have here today. Join me on slide 8. And I'm going to make a duplicate slide because of the size of our group. 8 or 9, and tell us what you teach. Put your name and what you're teaching. Take any available text box, and you'll write in that. If someone already has a text box, just move on over to another. And then I'm going to ask you to color code your what it is that you teach. And I've got some samples for color coding in the upper left of your screen. So if you're math, red, English, blue, social studies, purple, science, orange, specials, yellow. And if I did not already think about your subject area, feel free to add to this list. And you're just going to change the color of that green text box by using the fill tool. And I'm going to be asking you all almost the same question every time, but with a different experience. This activity is called Respond and Code. Sometimes the codes can be provided by the teacher. Other times it's open coding where the students have to figure out what the titles of the codes will be. So let me ask you, how might you use Respond and Code in your content area to give students more voice? Go ahead and turn on your mics and tell us.
You could use this to ask kids about their status on a project. They could indicate with color whether they're done or need help or just starting.
Ooh, that's a really good idea. Absolutely. And that can maybe even inform your groups that you then make. Jeff has an idea about checking for understanding. Jeff, how are you imagining using this? Can you tell us a little bit more?
I don't know. Maybe just with the box feature, maybe they could, if you ask them to fill something in, maybe if they need a little bit more understanding, they could just do a fill color and just put something like red means they don't know, yellow means they kind of understand it, and green means they fully understand it, just to get a full, I guess, a snapshot of how they're feeling at that point.
Absolutely. And I'm someone who usually is in the math realm. So if I have some different strategies on there and I want to know what my students think of them, that would really help me to inform my instruction for the next day and what I spend more time on. Shay?
Um, I would probably use it for a review of maybe vocabulary or just concepts within like a CBC unit where they will have a color code for if they understand, if they do not understand, if it scares them immensely, something along those lines, as just a review right before we hit a in-class or a virtual review session. So I know what to cover, what not to cover. And I could also do it afterwards too, after they've taken an assessment.
Absolutely. And way to put that review student-centered, that they're giving you the input instead of just the teacher assuming. I see we have a couple people who teach reading English language arts. I've heard of using this activity when they're reading a novel. In that chapter, they're writing down all the characters who happen to be in the chapter, and then they color code them for various reasons, and the kids choose the color code. So protagonist and antagonist, or people who belong in one family or one house or one group and another group of people, just to kind of sort those. Awesome. Let's keep on rolling. Again, we've got 12 strategies in a short amount of time. So come on down to slide 11. And would you please grab a star from the middle and move it on top of a picture? How do you feel about distance learning right now? Grab a star and move it onto a picture. And if you're curious about the cloning thing, I've got a tip for you I'll share at the end about how to do that. Oh, I know we got more people than that. Grab a star from the middle and move it to the picture that best describes how you feel towards distance learning. Alrighty, on slide 12, I want you to defend that choice. Just double click, the boxes are already there, double click in one of them and write your reason why. Try to keep it short so that it fits there. But if it's larger, you can resize your font. Oh, it's great to see all the different ideas about why you're feeling that way. So we could use this information to have a whole group discussion. There's lots of ways that you pedagogical experts could take this. I'm going to show one more template and some differences there. Join me on either slide 13 or 14. I made a duplicate since we have such a large group. And this time I want you to respond to a slightly different question. Which picture describes how you feel about distance learning on a Sunday evening? Write your name, the letter you choose, and your rationale. How do you feel on a Sunday evening? And now I know that all of you know what it's like to give a multiple choice test, know what it's like to see your student responses and all the other questions you might have. On slide 11, 12, and 13 are 3 different templates for essentially a multiple choice question. I'd like to ask you, how are these 3 templates different, and why might you choose to use one of them over another? Go ahead and turn on your mic and share with us. How are they different, and why might you choose one template over another? Rashmi?
I like slide 13 and 14 because it lets you give a short answer to the multiple choice question. So it's not as blind as a multiple choice where you don't know what the student was thinking, what they just guessed.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing. Go ahead, Liz.
Sorry, forgot to turn my mic on. For me, they are, I guess, scaffolded in terms of level of vulnerability. The first one, there's no vulnerability. It's just a spontaneous response. Yeah, I'll fly in there. The second one, you're needing to give some explanation. And in the third one, you're declaring who you are and providing a rationale.
Absolutely. And Liz, what you're talking about there are different forms of being anonymous or being very public. And you're right, that first one is completely anonymous. The second one, while you're typing, you would see the student's name going across. But as soon as they click off of it, you don't know who it is. So it's semi-anonymous. And that last one, you really are putting your name to it. And another thing that both 11 and 12 do is they cluster similar responses together so you can see how many and what reasons for the similar responses. But on slide 13 and 14, they don't cluster the responses together. Instead, it just gives each individual their own voice and their own opinion. So I think there's a good reason to use all of them at different times. It just kind of depends what that time is and what you're expecting. All right, join me down on slide 16. We're going to use a text box again, and the response is to this question, and your response should be either one word or a short couple of words. What has been successful so far with distance learning? It's okay to add more than one text box, but please keep one topic per text box. What's been successful so far with distance learning? If you find a duplicate, turn the duplicate into bold and then delete your duplicate. Wonderful. And so this is called a tweet board. It was actually my grad students who named this a tweet board because when everyone was responding at once, somebody said, hey guys, can we keep it nice and short like a tweet so everyone has room to type? And that just kind of stuck. So now whenever my students see this blue slide, the little Twitter bird, they know keep their responses short and sweet like a tweet. All right, I'm going to move some of these text boxes for just a minute. It'll look a little chaotic, but we'll be able to move them back. So just hold tight. I have a routine called Tug of Word, where I put a tug of war rope up. And I'm going to ask you to now read other people's responses and move it down to this continuum. Is that easy for you or hard for you? So don't move your own, move somebody else's. And if you disagree with someone, it is okay to move it more towards the middle. Now, to the untrained eye, this looks totally chaotic. It looks like, oh man, people are moving everything everywhere. But I was keeping a very skillful eye on what was happening with those terms. And I saw one of them moving like crazy, moving on one side to the other side, to the other side, to the other side. And that was this term here, exploring new technologies. When you all were moving it, some of them moved and they just stayed there. But this one bounced between easy and hard. Now, as somebody who likes to have a very lively whole group conversation, I know that I should never ask students questions that they all agree on because my conversation will just die. Instead, I need conversations about things that I know people disagree on. And when I saw this exploring new technologies bouncing from one end for the easy to me all the way to the other end for hard to me and back and forth, I knew that's my conversation starter. So let me ask you all, how might you use tug of word in your content area? And why might it be useful to see this bouncing around? How might you use this in your content area? Go ahead, Rashmi.
Sorry, it's not a response, but more of a question. I am just worried that I may not be able to see the word bounce around unless you saw it differently than we did. That's my one thought.
Yeah, so and when you start to do this more often, students you'll be able to see them kind of moving around, going back and forth. Um, but is this something that would just be used in, let's say, technology, or could you use it in other contents? Go ahead, Lisa.
Since we're doing a persuasion unit right now, and we're kind of evaluating how persuasive things are, perhaps we could have one box on the screen that kind of represented the class as a whole, but kids had the ability to slide it left or right, depending on the argument they're hearing right then, whether it's, whichever way it's persuading them.
Yes, absolutely. So persuasive in any sort of a debate here, it's going to be a really good tool to use. If any of you all teach social studies, one teacher in my last session talked about using it for two forms of government on opposite sides of the spectrum, and then moving different countries and the government that they have somewhere along this. And you might get some interesting conversations and interesting ways to defend your thinking. Alrighty, let's head on down to slide 19. Every time I do a breakout room activity, I include this slide. It's just a template that reminds me of my directions, how I wanted to group people, and for about how long. So this is kind of a lesson planning slide. But the area that you will work on is on slide 20 or 21, depending on what group you're assigned to. And I'm going to ask everybody to respond to the same question and type your responses in your group's box. What does it mean to be a learner of technology? And why might it be important to show and model this to students? Everyone will have the ability to type directly in this box by just double clicking it, and you'll type right in there. As you start to type, things will be very brainstormy. There'll be one word, there'll be bullet points, but as your group continues to talk, you're going to start to converge on one idea or one sentence. So as you do this activity, go ahead and start thinking about how it's going to converge, and then just write right on top of those bullet points. Put it back together so it's not in a rough draft form anymore. All right, I'm going to create these breakout rooms. You're automatically going to go into it. And our breakout rooms will start in 3, 2, 1, now. Hey there, Jackie and Jody. You all have moderator privileges, so feel free to move between the different groups. Some people might be very familiar with knowing what group they're in. Some people might need to know how to figure out the groups. And I apologize if my audio is spotty. I'm connected through my phone right now, so hopefully that will pick up.
Thanks,
The
Teresa.
audio is great.
Yeah, the audio is fine. Thank you.
Perfect.
Jody, did you want to head into...
Hi there, Group 1. Go ahead and turn on your audio and start discussing what does it mean to be a learner of technology?
I can type in the box if you guys want. That way we're not all going back and forth.
Thanks, Marcia.
Hi there, Group 6. Go ahead and turn on your microphones and start talking about what does it mean to be a learner of technology? Hi there, Group 7. Go ahead and turn on your microphones and discuss what does it mean to be a learner of technology?
Hello.
Hi there, Group 8. Go ahead and turn on your mics and talk about what does it mean to be a learner of technology?
Hello. I guess being a learner of technology is just trying to be open to learning new things. I know this slideshow has a lot of little interactive stuff, but it looks nice, but it's kind of challenging to figure out, all right, how do we do all this stuff?
Yeah, I kind of agree with Dwayne. I think you have to be willing to kind of push yourself outside the box a little bit and be willing to try new things. And I know yesterday I tried something new and like there were mistakes on the slides that I made, but
that understanding, the kind of digital theory of mine where I don't know what the students are each individually experiencing. Like, are the kids who don't want to talk, how many of them are in the living room next to their brothers and sisters with their parent working? You know, like, how many of them do not have a space where they are comfortable talking from their end? How many of them are just like confused because they're like on their iPad or something and it's hard to get that set up? One of my kids is like, oh yeah, I have a headphone jack, but it only works in my phone and not my laptop. And so like there's a million different things that like it's not my responsibility, that's not I can't take ownership of that, but it means that like I don't know what it means when they aren't participating. It could mean a million different things.
That's a really good point. I hadn't thought about that, but you're right. The environment that they're in may be completely alien to me.
Testing. Welcome back, everyone, to the main room. Hello there. Welcome back. Welcome back to the main room. I've gone ahead and muted your microphone, so if you are going to speak, just remember to turn them back on. So in this activity, you were able to see 3 other groups' responses as you were developing your own responses. And my question for you is, what are some advantages of viewing their responses as you're developing your own? Go ahead and put a hand up and tell us. Paul, did you have a response?
Actually, I wanted to ask you, this is Paul, yeah. How did you do that? Put us all into breakout groups so quickly?
Yep, absolutely, Paul. I'm going to make sure that I put that question down in our virtual parking lot. And at the end, I go through all these little step-by-step things, and I do them many times until you're comfortable with them. So how to breakout rooms. All right, I've got that in there.
It was great.
Oh, go ahead.
No, it was great being able to see what other groups were doing while we were doing our work too. I really like that.
Yeah, and students really like it too. Why do they like it? Elizabeth, tell us what your group was thinking about.
Oh, well, in terms of responding to your question, I thought that, even sometimes you don't really have an idea and looking at somebody else's, not necessarily to copy everything that they have, but to look at somebody else's and get a couple of ideas from them really helps, starts the brainstorm for you, and then a lot more answers flow. So I think it's a really at first I was like, I'm not sure how I feel about this, but then I can see it as a really positive thing, especially for kids that are not quite sure as to how to respond.
Right, absolutely. Lauren, tell us what you were thinking.
I found that I wasn't paying attention really to the other boxes until the end. But what I liked about that is sometimes when groups finish early, like what do they do then? But I think we naturally started looking at the other ones when our group was done. So it kind of gave us something to do while we waited for everyone to finish.
Absolutely. And that's where some of our really interesting conversations come out of like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that one. How is that? How does that relate to us? So students get reflective. Absolutely. All right. Our next activity starts on slide 23. And this is a template called Compass Points. It comes out of Project Zero from Harvard. There is a link under the slide so you can go directly to it. And usually I do this activity in 3 different groups. Because of the size of it, we're going to have 6 groups. And each group gets a slide and their own question prompt. They start to answer it, and then they move to the other slides. The other slides have different question prompts, but don't worry, you're not starting off on a blank slide anymore. You're going to see what another group wrote, and you're going to add to it. For example, if you were in group 1, you would start on slide 25, and you'd see at the bottom of slide 25, there's presenter notes. It says that group 1 would start there, and your topic is giving students editing rights to Google Slides. You would fill in something that's worrisome, need to know, stance, and excited. When group 1's finished on their blank slide, they're going to visit the other 2, slides 26 and 27. They're going to read what the other people wrote, and they're going to add to it. The question prompts are below in those presenters' notes also. If you're in groups 4, 5, and 6, you've got the same things. They're just below since we have a large number of people. And Jackie, Jody, and I will be in your groups to make sure that you understand the directions and that you know what group you're in. I'm going to set up the breakout rooms now. And they will start in 3, 2, 1, now. All right, folks, I gave you a job. So part of it is just making sure that people know that they have that topic in the presenter's notes and they know where to look for which group that they're in. But I already see a fairly even distribution, so it looks like everyone kind of knows where they're headed.
And this is a silly question, Teresa, but do we time them in each slide, or they just leave when they're done as a group?
I let them just kind of leave when they're done as a group because they are all practicing teachers. And
Okay.
that would be a little bit different if I was working with students.
Okay.
Who's an anonymous kangaroo?
Hi there, group 2. So go ahead and
Hi.
turn on your mics. And what is interesting about giving students access to breakout rooms without a teacher monitoring the room?
I think we should ask her.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
wait a minute.
Oh,
I think our breakout room didn't
Yeah,
stay.
Just fell apart.
oh, that's all right. It looks like one of the moderators went and kind of brought their rooms back together. That's okay. Mistakes are allowed. So we can kind of look at the advantages of starting in your own slide and making some initial comments. Go ahead and take a minute and look at the other 2 slides. See what other people wrote and see if you want to add anything to it. And then go ahead and view that third slide, that third question, and see if there's anything you want to add to that slide. And the thing that I like to bring out here is that student voice looks very different if you are starting off on a completely blank slide or if you are adding to a slide. Let's hear from you all. How might you use this activity in your content area? How did you find your student voice different on that initial slide versus the slides that already had something on them?
We did something like this in the book club last week where we all put phrases from the book that we felt strongly about and then kind of took turns taking a look at them and talking about them. We didn't have to use breakout rooms, but it gave everyone a voice and it encouraged all of us to see what everyone was thinking.
Right, so we have a space and we're going to fill that space. That's how we get student voice. Rashmi?
I think when you get to see what other people are saying, it helps to move the conversation towards a consensus if that's your goal.
Right, absolutely. And some of you might have found that adding on to a slide was a little bit easier than starting completely from scratch. And so we can continue conversations and continue to talk about a lot of things without having to start from that empty slide, which can feel a little intimidating. Alrighty, so far today, you guys have used student voice in a variety of different slides and templates. You've worked together, you've worked separately, you've worked adding on, you've seen other people's things, and now I'm going to give you perhaps the most intimidating slide, but show you how great it can be for student voice. Below this, you have completely blank slides. There is nothing on them other than your group number. I'm going to place you all in groups one last time, and you are going to put on your slide, in a perfect world, my online classes would be. That's the prompt. I'll put it here in the chat box too. In a perfect world, my online classes would be. You're going to work together to fill up this slide. You can use text boxes, you can use GIFs, you can use YouTube links, you can use pictures, you can use anything you like, as long as you answer the question of a perfect world. All right, breakout rooms will start in 3, 2, 1, now.
Hi guys.
So folks, what would be your perfect online class? What would it look like?
How do we know which group we're in?
In Collaborate, you all are group 1.
We're already in the group right now.
Yep, you're in group 1, you're already in the group, and you're going to type on slide 34.
Right, I didn't know which slide.
Ah.
actually demonstrating that they're learning something, growing, interested, participating. Hey, there you go. Let's just throw those words in.
And I think taking risks too. You know, a lot of
Yeah.
them are scared to be wrong. They need to be risk takers, and it takes a while to develop. So I would say, in a perfect world, we have a little bit more experience because we got to learn these tools, and then you can have the vulnerability to try stuff. I would like for the students to be able to show their work so they learn the tools. So then, you know, where I can make them moderators and then they can present to the class as well.
Yeah, Leslie, I feel like younger
Anonymous Rhino.
Not me.
Yeah, it is. How'd
how
you
do
get
you even
Anonymous Rhino?
Hi, folks. So when I shared these Google Slides with you, I shared it with a link which allows people, if they're not signed on, to edit anonymously. And if you are signed on to your Google account, it'll show your name. And Google just does all these fun little animals.
Oh, I was just wondering. I saw penguins and kangaroos. I was like, how do we get some animals?
Welcome back to the main room. You all did a terrific job in your groups, making those empty slides full of great thinking. I have only had the pleasure of knowing you all for the last hour, but I can already tell so much about everyone here because you had a place to have a voice. And I hope that's what you gathered from today. On slide 40, I'd like each person to go ahead and type a sentence in. Just double click right on that paper. What's an activity from today that you pledged to try? At the very beginning, we did successes and celebrations. Then we looked at goals and objectives and we moved the emoji into visual polling. We did respond in code when I asked you what you taught. You did a multiple choice. You did a tug of word. You saw other people's thinking on the slide while you were developing your own. You did a carousel as we went through the compass points. And on that last one, you had a completely blank slide to do any way you wanted. This final activity on slide 40 is a whole group exit ticket. There's plenty of room for everyone to type, and everyone gets to have a voice. So folks, all of my templates are available. On slide 41, there's a link to my website. And that's the hour. So I hope you gathered a lot of strategies, something that can get your mind thinking about how to give students voice, how to make your lessons interactive. And I'm on the very last slide, slide 42, and I'm going to spend some time with anyone who would like to stay longer, walking through how do you do that? How did you do this part? And making sure you feel comfortable with the tech. So anyone who would like to say, feel free to put your questions on this last slide. And as your last tip for the day, I highly encourage you to put a virtual parking lot on the last slide of every single one of your presentations. This will help you with flow of the lesson, because when you get that kiddo who asks right in the middle of class, when's our project due? You're like, don't derail my lesson, man. Hold that question. Well, now they have a place to put that question. So that's why I always have a virtual parking lot at the very end. All right, folks, it's been a pleasure. If you would like to stay for the Q&A, feel free. If you have any other questions, just let me know. Put them on here. And happy online learning. Give your students a voice. They really, really want that agency. And when they have it, they will show you all their thinking. So good luck with your classes. All right, some people wanted to know a couple different things here. I'm going to share my screen and start to answer these. All right, you're looking at my screen now in Collaborate if you want to be able to see the visual for how I answer this. Somebody wanted to know, how do we do breakout rooms? And I click on this share button and click breakout rooms. There's a couple different ways you can share them. Randomly is the default, and it will just break up people into lots of different rooms. Sometimes if my students are really quiet and they don't think they want to talk, I'll make the maximum number of rooms. Oh, you're right, you are. Hold on, let me share the right window. Yep, sorry about that. Share this screen. There we are. All right, it's going to look like you have tunnel vision, but it's only because I'm sharing you the screen of my Collaborate screen, which is a screen of the Collaborate screen. What you need to see is on the white bar. You'll go to breakout rooms, and I'll link the video that shows how to do all this too. You can randomly assign. Right now everyone's in a pair share because I have 14 groups, or maybe I want, 8 groups of 3 to 4 each. I can also allow people to switch groups. I can shuffle them up. So there's lots of options there. And what I'll do is I will post a link to a video that can give you some more ideas.
May I ask a question, please?
Yeah, go ahead.
When you break up the group, how do you as the moderator go into the groups from group to group?
Yes, there's a little green arrow that lets you go in. I think it's easier to show in a video, so I've created that. Let's see, watch breakout rooms. And I'm going to link that video right here on the slide for you. Okay, so there's 2 links on the virtual parking lot. The top one is to my website where I have lots of great tips. And the second one is straight to the YouTube video that tells you all about breakout rooms. How do you make these interactive slides from scratch? Again, I've got a couple videos on it. I'll link this in here for you to see. Most of the things in Google Slides are just text boxes. That's what the majority of everything is. And when you use a text box, students can write in them. I just color code them so that they look kind of attractive and students know where they should type. I size them, and my students know the norm that when it's a small box, they write something short. When it's a large box, they write more. So that video there would let you know how to use the text boxes. And in this video, the second one I post, will show you how to lock the screen. So if you notice on the virtual parking lot, you can't move my cars. Like you can try, but you're never going to be able to move my cars because that's a background. Same with the title at the top of the screen, that virtual parking lot. They are locked. So I have posted videos to how to lock your screens if you don't want your students moving certain things around. And that's there also. Someone said, I noticed the recording function goes off when I go into breakout groups. It does, and that's terribly annoying. I have a couple workarounds for you, though. One workaround is that I open an incognito window, I sign in randomly, and I make myself a moderator, and I just keep it in the background, and I never close it, and then there's always somebody in the main room. As long as there's somebody there, it'll continue to record the main room, and it won't go off and on and off and on. The other trick is to use Screencastify. That is what I'm using right now, and you will be able to see all the Google Slides and all of Collaborate at the same time, and whatever the teacher sees is what gets recorded. Screencastify is free right now. It's available on Mac, Chromebook, and PC. And it's a super easy little applet to use. Oh, Jackie, even better. I like that because I can see a recording later of which breakout rooms I go into, how I interacted with those students, and it's great for students who were not able to attend to just watch. Is it okay to share templates with other teachers? Yep, I have a ton of templates. Let me post it in here. There's the link to the templates, and you can use full edit templates and modify them. You can also use the standard template and just add your own question to it. Rashmi, go ahead.
So your templates say that they are Creative Commons licensed and attribution and share alike, or no, not share alike, attribution and, oh, I forget. Is there a line that we can borrow from somewhere? Do you want us to copy paste it at the end of a slide or something like that? And
as
what
long
language?
as they're you're just using them for your students, they are totally free to use. The only reason that that's in there is if somebody has a business, they're not able to be used for commercial purposes.
All right, so we're okay as long as we're using these in classrooms.
Yep, absolutely. Okay. Yep.
Thank
if you're going to
you.
use a business with it, then contact me and we'll get together.
Thank you.
Yep. How do you clone? I am actually just about to make a video on this and post it, so I'll show you here. Let me share my screen. Alrighty, I'm going to do it on the slide above. All right, so this is how you clone. If I want to, I'm on the slide above on slide 42. If I want to clone a star, I use the shape art to put in a star. And then I press Control D, which is a fancy way of copying and pasting really quickly. And I'm going to hit it a whole bunch of times. I might even hit it 100 times, just a whole bunch. So that first command was Control D, and I'll put it in the presenter's notes. And the next one is Control A, because I want to select everything on this screen, every single star. I'm going to right click and say Align Horizontally. So got to move them all to the left. I'm going to right click again, and I'm going to Align Vertically. Now this is no longer one star, it's actually like 12 stars. So it is never an infinite clone, but you can make as many as you need. Yeah, it is. And then people can pull them, and it's as if they are still there. Eventually they will run out, but hey, that means you got a lot of student engagement if they do. Somebody asked, why are some names Anonymous Elephant or Anonymous Penguin? As a matter of fact, the person clicking on this is an Anonymous Kangaroo. And that's because of the way that I chose to share this. When I hit the share button, I can either input all my students' email addresses up here. If I do, it will show their name when they type. Or I can share a link. And in this link, for example, anyone with the link can edit it, and they'll do so anonymously. So by copying that link, I've given you all rights to edit this anonymously. I use that a lot in teacher education because it means that my teachers can try more risk and put things up anonymously without having their name attached to it. But when I'm working with children, knowing that they could then take that link and throw it up on Instagram or Reddit or Twitter, and then anybody in the world can log in and edit slides, I don't use that with kiddos just because of the security there. How do you clone the emojis so the kids can just drag? Again, that's just clip art. So someone grabbed an emoji here and then Control D a bunch of times and aligning it. Can you make a slide deck partially editable so that students can edit some slides and not others? Yes, through backgrounds. So if on slide 42, for example, if I wanted to insert a background here with information that I don't want my students to edit, I can do that. I have lots of backgrounds, so I use this one all the time. I don't want my students to edit the slide. This is the slide that's kind of like the beginning of a chapter. It's like a little introduction slide, and they know after this we're going to go right into the math routine. So you can try to pull on this picture. You can try and pull on my tab, but you're not going to be able to move my stuff around. I've created it as a background. Now students can still type on top of it. At any time, if you want that to go away, you can, so if everyone wants to just type real fast on this slide, like, we'll get lots of text boxes on here. So if a lot of students just all of a sudden write, or any students write and you don't want it there, you hit Control A and delete, and it's gone in a second. And so you still have the background there. If your students are typing, you don't want them typing there, they'll learn real quick that you have a lot of control, and that kind of behavior just stops itself. So again, Control A selects everything and then delete. Are breakout room texts recorded in the recording session? I don't know that one. I don't have a whole lot of experience with that. I'll keep an eye on it for you. If you want to send me an email, I'll start looking into it and getting back to you. I think that's everything. Are there any other questions? I see a couple of you are still in here. Did you have any other questions? Yes, I'll be sharing the recording. Give me about 24 hours. I usually do the compressing at nighttime, but I will do those for you. Sure thing. I hope you guys can use some of this in your new normal.
Teresa, this was so amazing. This is Jody. Thank you so much for offering to do this for us.
Sure thing. I'm sorry my internet was shaky there at the beginning, but I think we got through that, and it looks like all the power is back on.
Yeah, we didn't have any trouble hearing you, so yeah,
Okay,
it was
perfect.
great. I want to give you shout outs so that other people can, you can get more people. I've seen lots of shout outs on Twitter. Are there any other ways you want me to broadcast this to people?
Word of mouth is really the way that people are hearing about it. If you are getting together with your whole county and doing something there, or if there's other administrators that you want to refer to, the word of mouth goes further than a typical advertisement. A lot of people just throw advertisements into their junk mail. But my goal is, I've been doing this for years, and I think that synchronous online learning is potentially better than face-to-face, especially in the fall if we all have to be 6 feet apart from each other. I mean, I want my students to interact with one another. So, yeah, I'll keep doing these as long as people are interested.
Oh my goodness, I'm thrilled, and I will definitely continue word of mouth. And if you're ever willing to come back and do it again, we would love to have you again.
Sure thing. Yeah, if you all have any successes, and I encourage you to tell your teachers this too, with interactive slides, taking a picture of that and posting it to Twitter so that other teachers don't feel intimidated, that this becomes kind of this new normal and this new confidence that will help the whole profession.
100%.
I will
Hey,
definitely-
Teresa, to piggyback off of Jody, I can share this on our SBITS Google Plus community. All 200 of us are on there. So don't be surprised if somebody reaches out, because I know that's one of the biggest struggles right now is the engagement piece. And I know people are struggling to try and figure out what's the best way. And these tools today were absolutely awesome. So thank you so much.
Yeah, sure thing. And then Jackie, do you know about breakout rooms and moving yourself with the little green box arrow? It's a lot faster than having to hit accept to changes.
You know, it's funny because the county's kind of pushed us away from breakout rooms just because you can't supervise middle schoolers in those rooms. But I like the speed at which you used them today. And so frankly, I've been holding tight on PD since we launched officially, 3 weeks ago? So in the next few weeks, I'm going to be doing some more PDs here and there. So hopefully I'll be able to have more breakout sessions with teachers just to make sure that classroom management and expectations are set from the very beginning and they're very strong. Considering all the issues that happened and went on with the privacy or the lack thereof at the beginning.
Absolutely.
So FCPS has kind of cautioned us for that, but which is why I haven't shown breakout rooms to anybody yet. But I do plan on kind of venturing into there a little bit more so in the next few weeks. That way they can play with it after the school year or for the fall, because that's looking like where we're headed.
Absolutely. And Jackie, if you want, I'm going to go ahead and post this in the chat box. I have several tips for educators, including some of the classroom management issues about why you might not want to do breakout rooms, or actually the power that breakout rooms really can have.
They have.
And so
Right.
one of them is like, how do I private message my teacher if there's some cyberbullying going on or inappropriate behavior? And that's something that you can't do in a face-to-face class. Like if you're going to call in a teacher, you know, kids are going to snicker things under their voice because they saw you do that. But in the breakout room, when you private message a teacher, nobody knows. And then that teacher can inconspicuously go into the breakout room without the students realizing that they're in there yet and listen in. So there's some advantages there that teachers definitely find useful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think setting those management and expectations from the beginning is going to be critical.
Yes, absolutely.
Because there is a lot of benefit to it. I kind of wish my master's, even though it was all online, we never had synchronous classes. And I kind of wish we did, knowing and seeing all this.
You know, I've been researching in this field for a couple years and it is sparse and empty, but I have a feeling in the next couple of months it is going to be filled with things.
Absolutely. I thank you so much.
Sure thing.
And thank you to Jody.
Thanks, Jody, for putting
Teresa,
this together.
Oh my goodness, thank you. I can't even thank you enough. I want to tell you, I mentioned your website to Rashmi at the beginning of last week, and she experimented with some of the templates in her lessons this week, and I got to watch. And the one thing that she did was to show the expectations for the class at the beginning.
Yes.
And it's only the second time I've watched her in this setting, but the kids were completely engaged. They all took their own little text box. These are ESOL kids that are new to the language, and the way they interacted, I was literally on cloud 9 after watching it. And that was directly because she had seen your templates on your website. So, and then she attended today. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Oh, I'm so excited. Yeah, keep sharing the successes. They keep me going. So I appreciate that on a personal level.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be shouting your name from the rooftops.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much and happy online learning.
Thanks again.